And welcome back to another episode of TommoTalks, the topical conversation podcast where this series, Tommo Talks Music. Today's guest is a very old friend of mine from back in the day by the name of Brent Maxton, a.k.a. Snowy. Snowy has over 30 years' experience of playing. He's originally from New Zealand but is now based in the Gold Coast, Australia. He started playing guitar at high school, and at the age 13 his grandmother gifted him his first guitar, and he's never looked back. Snowy's been playing in cover bands from his late teens right up to this current day, and he's also been in a number of original bands. The current one, Second Circle, which we'll learn about very, very soon. If you like fat riffs and tear off your face grooves, this will be a band for you to check out for sure. He's also the current bass player for the California Kings, the Australian Chili Pepper show, as well as the bass player for a very well-known Gold Coast covers band called Follow the Fox. He's been a full-time musician in times, he's been a bass tutor in times, and he's also the guy that used to get up to a hell of a lot of no good with myself. So we have to keep this pretty R-rated, and it's going to be pretty hard. But listen, I'm more than stoked. It's been too long, Snowy. Welcome to TommoTalks, mate. It's so great to have you. How are you, brother?
I'm really good, man. It's really good to see you. It's been a laugh already, so
yeah.
Thanks for that glowing introduction. You've
mate.
done your homework.
Yeah. I tried to do my homework. Mate, I was just trying to work out, like, when did you take off to Oz? What year was that?
2005, I think we got here.
2005.
Yeah.
Okay,
so it's been 15 years now. So
yeah, so I left
a good dash. So I think the last time I saw you would have been maybe a couple of years before that.
Yeah, because I left in 2003.
Yeah, right. So that would have been it. Yeah.
Been a while, because
it has been a hell of a long time.
It has, mate.
Another whole life over here.
Funny, like looking back, trying to think. I've sort of got like pre-London, London, and then North America. Do you know what I mean? So it's weird. I think one of the last times I saw you, because I was living in Hamilton for the last couple of years, you were playing in a band with Mark, and was it Dino Lawton?
Right? Yeah. I'm not too sure. I can't remember exactly who I was. I was with another guy from Hamilton called James Bose. We were doing a covers thing, and we'd get Andre Guscott on drums every now and again too. So there was, because of that whole jam night sort of scene, we sort of interchange musicians. You know? So I can't exactly remember who we had full time when you left, but
right.
Yeah,
that was over in Hamilton though, and I was quite surprised to see you over there. Yeah, it was in a place called the
there was a venue there that was right next to where Paul Martin had that. Remember Paul Martin had that bar, and there was soundproof next door.
Yep.
Well, through James, who lived in Hamilton at the time, we got that gig, so we'd go to we'd go over to Hamilton and play a few shows there. Right. So James was definitely our drummer because he was our link.
Right, got that.
To playing there. So
Hamilton was great. Hamilton was great for live music, really was.
Yeah, well, you and I sort of come from that area too, being from Cambridge, so we sort of knew the place quite well anyway.
True story.
I was born Hamilton. Chiefs. Well, mate, I'm not even going to talk about the Chiefs right now. Did I say that proudly? Yeah.
Mate, well, that's another conversation. So, listen, mate, I sort of gave a quick snapshot of what you're up to now. You're very, very busy with the music. You're a family man as well. If you just want to sort of just quickly give us a snapshot of the three bands you're in right now. And before we started rolling, you said that, COVID's been a bit of an issue, which I think for most artists around the world it has been. So, yeah, man, just jump into it and give us a bit of a sort of a quick update.
Yeah, right. Well, the bread and butter for me, for making money-wise, has been Follow the Fox, which is a four-piece band, fronted by Virginia Mann, who is our lead singer, great singer, and Maddie Flo on drums and Ben White. They're all people that I just met through basically Facebook and a Facebook ad chasing a Gold Coast bass player. So I jumped on board with those guys, and we've been going for 3.5 years strong now. Built up a really good reputation because we're all pretty solid musicians and a great front person. So, that's sort of been helping pay the bills, playing most weekends up until this COVID situation, of course. So that's them, Follow the Fox, the main one. Around about that time that was getting started as well, I joined the California Kings, which is a Chili Peppers tribute band, which pretty much speaks for itself. Anybody that loves the Chili's comes along to see them. So that's pretty good money for us as well. It's a good money spinner, but we don't play as regularly as the Foxes because it's kind of one of those things. A tribute band plays too often in one area, people just start losing interest because you're just playing so regularly.
Right.
But we travel and we're flowing to other places, been flowing to other places to play, which has been a pretty good highlight for us as well. Good bonding sessions with the guys,
I bet.
all pretending we're the Chili Peppers and just going and rocking out at places and just making dicks of ourselves, really.
Trashing hotels.
Yeah. And lastly, definitely not least though, is the originals band, which I think is most fulfilling for yourself personally because it's your own stuff. And it's really great for me because I'm actually jamming with two friends that I sort of learnt my craft with.
Is that right?
Brad and Scott Wilson, which are my good friends from high school.
Oh yeah.
I
didn't realise.
Yeah. Do you remember when we first did that band and that Battle of the Bands, and Scott was my drummer?
He was playing at
he is in Second Circle, and so is his brother, his twin brother Brad. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that's guys that have been knocking around together for nearly 30 years. So
that's
for us
awesome
to put something together like Second Circle is pretty special.
Right. And I've got to say,
and that's
the single that Lust. I'm gonna drop that in the episode so the listeners or viewers get to see that. It's a wicked recording, mate. You've got to be pretty stoked with that. It's just got a wicked bass line as well, and really blown away when I first heard that. So congrats on that.
Yeah, thanks, man. Like we're all sort of into our prog music and inspired by bands like Carnival and stuff. Over being here in Australia, that's sort of like the pinnacle. So when we did that recording, we sort of wanted to get it sounding similar to that. So we actually went to a place where the guy that recorded us was actually the understudy of the guy that did one of Carnival's albums.
Oh,
so
interesting.
With his knowledge, that's sort of what created that really good recording for us, and we're all really proud of it.
Yeah, no, it's great. And we'll come back to that because I'm sure that you guys have got plans for other things coming up. But what I want to do is, and this is what I always do when I talk to artists, is sort of go back to the beginning. And we've had conversations, and you said that it was at high school that you first started taking guitar lessons. However, do you remember in the home, and that was there music that inspired you? Was there a pivotal moment where you heard a particular song that sort of grabbed you? Do you remember that far back or anything like that?
I do remember listening to a lot of stuff at home with Mum. We really fell in love with music. She'd listen to Fleetwood Mac and David Bowie and groups like that, and that sort of inspired me. But I do remember a pinpoint moment where I sort of thought to myself that that's what I want to do, and it's when I saw the video clip for Epic by Faith No More.
Oh, is that right?
I remember that came on, and Mum was watching it, and she was like, "Oh, this is where rap and metal is sort of getting fused together," and I really paid a lot of attention to that.
Yeah.
And then just the way Mike Patton's jumping around and just the color in that video and the goldfish on the floor.
Yeah.
It really, I was drawn into rock.
Do you know, I remember we're pretty much the same age, right? There is a few pivotal videos I remember as well. I remember what sort of got me into music, but I remember music videos that really impacted me on and hard. And that one was "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses. Yeah. When that video first came out, because I remember hearing the music before you seeing the video, and I was so confused, man. Like after hearing the music, then seeing the video and seeing this ginger jumping around, I was what?
It's funny you say that because I think you might have even been there too, talking about the Sweet Child riff. It's probably one of the first riffs on the guitar that I actually really wanted to learn.
Right.
And reason being is because I went to that Finlay Park Christian camp. You remember that place?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And remember you used to have the older dudes that they were called uncles and aunties, remember?
Yeah.
Like there was a guy called Uncle Gregor. And he had long black hair. He kind of looked like Steve Vai.
Right.
And I was like, and he had an acoustic guitar and he was smashing it. The song had only been out a little while.
Right.
And here it's do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking and seeing the way the girls were looking at him and they're like,
right.
Just right, that's what I want to do.
Right. So
I want to be that guy.
So it's funny, Brent and I, for the listeners and who the cares,
nobody does.
Yeah, Brent and I met when we were what? How old were we? Was it intermediate?
If we're talking about back when our stepfathers had a fight, is that where you're going with this?
Yeah, no, that wasn't them.
You don't even remember that.
I remember that for sure. I remember that because
that's but we were even younger than when we. Yeah. No, I don't know how, but
That
we
was-
went in intermediate, so we would have been about 11 and 12.
11 and 12.
when
And
we
that's the
first
same
met.
time we were at the Finlay Park as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally would have been. Yeah, for
So
sure.
Finlay Park is it's a Christian run camp. Basically, it's a great way for parents to offload their kids for 2 weeks at a time during school holidays. But it was wicked, man. Like you'd go out there, you'd have to go to chapel every day, and they'd try and sort of sell you the good word, and I don't even know how to describe it. But there was all these wicked activities: go karting, abseiling, canoeing.
So good.
And you'd meet kids from all over the North Island pretty much, right? And then what would happen is you'd go away and you'd go back the following year, and then you'd meet up with these people again, and you just grow this wicked network. And I forgot that really out there, but it was like that sticks in my childhood for sure.
Yeah, same.
And then we were obviously at the same intermediate school, so 11, 12 years old, and then I moved, right? I moved to Mount Maunganui. Yeah. And then, I don't know, 10 years later, I'm playing in cover bands, and there's a mate of mine, Bart, man. Shout out to Bart. And Barty. And he's telling me about this. They got this new bass player. Te Puke's a town that's sort of a little bit out away from where I'm from. It's a bit of a bogan town as well. And I meet this dude. And
nicely said.
Yeah,
and you really underplayed that one.
Yeah, I know. Just got to be kind, mate. You know, like Ellen's kind, or is she? Have you been watching that blow up? God damn, crazy. So yeah, and then and just to give you an idea, when I was at primary school and intermediate with Brent, he was like a stick. He would have to run around in the shower to get wet, sort of thing. And then like 10, 12 years later, we're in where I'm from, and this guy Bart mentions that they got this new bass player from Te Puke, and like the first time I saw Snow, it looked like a Viking. Like, what are you, 6'2"?
Yeah.
And he would have been about 102 kg, I suppose.
Yeah,
quite solid,
and
long hair. He just looked like a Viking. And then we sort of drunk beers, and then one day, I don't know how you figured it out, but
I just did, because first of all, I always remembered you as Shane.
Right.
Because you were Shane back in the day. No one actually called you Tommo.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know at all. And then the penny just dropped. I was like, well, it's your face. You know? You still had the same face. Yeah. Of all things.
Sadly. Yeah.
You know, so someone's identity.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It just plumbed in there. It was like, hey, man, were you from Cambridge?
Yeah. It was so random. And then...
it was very random.
And then we ended up living in the same house at different times, and it's just a... So
yeah.
So going back to when you sort of saw the dude at Finlay Park playing "Sweet Child of Mine," did you try to seek out a guitar, or did you try to seek out any instrument when you got home?
Well, because I was so shit at playing it, I decided to go to bass.
Right. Hashtag me too.
yeah. Like a lot of bass players, we realised how crap we were.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest, when I made the conversion to play bass, it was a similar story. It was at high school, and I met a guy called Shane Lewis, and every school's got their one amazingly talented guitarist that you just inspire to be, but no amount of practice is actually going to get you to that point, because sometimes it's just a natural ability thing.
Yeah.
Here's a 15, 16-year-old guy that's playing Joe Satriani quite proficiently, and as disheartening as it was to see that and know that I wasn't going to be able to do it, it was inspiring too, and I wanted to just be a part of what he was doing. And I became friends with him, and in that he got me as his bass player. He asked me if I would go on bass so that we could do some performances, and the song "Always With You, Always With Me," which was a big hit for Satriani, everybody sort of knew it. Very simple bass line, so that was lucky for me. That actually got written. We performed it at a Battle of the Bands thing, and the dean was so impressed by it that he actually wrote like a school production play about a girl that comes to a city and finds a guitarist and blah blah blah, and he wrote that song into the production. And so Shane needed a band to play it, And so Scott from Second Circle, my mate, was the drummer.
Right.
And I jumped on bass and we played that. And from there, it just sort of went from strength to strength. We just stayed as a band and played Battle of the Bands, did the Smoke Free Rock Quest. And that was the first time I ever played on a big PA, and I just about shat my pants. It was that awesome.
Yeah.
It was like, Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And that rush you get of just a big crowd as well, and that's what really got me addicted, I think.
Now, how good is that Smoke Free Rock Quest? I had a conversation with a mate of mine, Stan Bicknell, a drummer who lives in Melbourne. I was just telling you about before.
Yeah,
and he played in Rock Quest as well, and Jared Brown from Mama Said they played in Rock Quest.
Great.
Bick Wronga played Rockfest. Smoke Free Rock Quest.
Smoke Free. Yeah.
Auntie Beatrice, so the Quarter Brothers. They.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So there's that thing.
Auntie Beatrice was the ones that knocked us out.
Oh, is that right? Were you the same year?
Yeah, we were in the same year. We got to the regional finals, and then they went on to win it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, mate, check out LAB right now. What they're doing.
Yeah, I know. That's Joel. I was like, wow, look how far he's come.
Yeah. That's crazy.
He always had it in him, though. Even as a young kid coming to those jam nights, he was incredible back then.
Well, I remember Mount Malik. You'll probably remember the bar.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so our Damon Innes started the jam night over there. And then I used to jam with Damon playing bass, and then we got Walker or Andre Perry from Taranaki, who was living in Hamilton, and we started this band called Sons of Beaches, and it was just like a jam band, and his mum used to bring him along, because I think he was 13 at the time, so he couldn't come in, and because Mount Malik had a restaurant license, and he would come up and jam with us, and I remember just thinking, bloody hell.
Back then,
kid,
I know. He had the feel. He had it going on, and now he's got an amazing voice.
It's incredible, man.
It's really good. It's just really cool to see and know that we sort of came from that area and saw him back then. Yeah. And it's really nice to see them doing so well.
Yeah, very, very well. Very well. Okay, so then you were sort of, you were in Tauranga, you're playing, because I remember you into the Battle of the Bands there in Mid-City, right? And that was with
yes, that's right. Yeah. That was, we called ourselves Dog Day Sunrise.
Sunrise, that's right.
It was the shittest name ever. Yeah. And it was like, I stole it from a Fear Factory song, and it was like their shittest song as well.
Oh, right.
So. But it was humble beginnings for us, and that was me, Scott, and Bartman.
Bartman, yep.
And Steve Weller on guitar, and another mate of mine, Dylan, on the other guitar.
Right.
So we had a crack at that, and that was a bit of fun. But from that is when I sort of got to meet Damien and Max from Tauranga, and that's sort of when I made my move from Te Puke to Tauranga, because I moved into the Selwyn Street house, and as you know, it was a pretty accommodating house. And that's when the whirlwind of rock stardom began.
So this house, if you can imagine, a very, very average to
a very, very, very fine house.
Yeah. I've had connections to that house for nearly 20 years, because before I even lived there, I had friends that lived across the road, like Cliffy Mannington, Lisa Mannington, etc. But then I knew people that lived there that worked in bars, because I was working in bars at the time as well, part-time. And then I got to live there. Then I sort of moved out. And then you moved there, and then Devo moved in there, and Damien was living there. And this house, if it could tell stories, there'd be a lot of us that would be in prison, I'm pretty sure. And I believe it's still there, mate. I think it's still.
I want to go back there just to see it. Just to knock on the door and say, "Do you mind if I come in and sleep on your couch?"
Oh, mate, that couch is so comfy too. Now, I remember when I'd left, it was a good time after I left. Remember Nick, who used to work?
Little Nick, stocky Nick.
Muscly as. He was living in there, and apparently he had Max's old room, which was Devo's old room. Yeah. And there was like, he could start to hear like a hum. And I was like, what the fuck? And long story short, dude, there was a massive wasp nest in that whole wall. Like there was like a massive, like they had to pull out half the wall, but it was like, you imagine if someone like put the head through the wall or something, and it would have just
would have been stung.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I remember like the landlord coming around at one point, and I think the the house was slowly falling off its piles and all sorts. Like it was can you imagine?
It wasn't the best constructed house. Let's face it.
No. Can you imagine the value of that land though? Like,
oh yeah, that'd be sick, especially overlooking the Route P at the back.
Yeah.
And that little place I stayed in at the very back.
Yeah.
With the freaky
trapdoor.
Put that to good use.
Oh my god, there is weird shit on there. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. So I can't remember, but because that's right, you started Strip Search, and just before Strip Search started, I was playing for a band called Spin Cycle at the time. Well,
sorry.
Yeah. Before that, even, and you're talking about before how you said that you had that friend that played Always With You, Always Without You for Joe Satriani, and you were like, oh man, I don't want to let this opportunity go. That happened for me with Blue Mother Child because Scotty Crowley was singing.
Yes.
This guy, Scotty Crowley, he's actually my cousin, actually.
All right.
Yeah. So so my mother's maiden name is Looney. His mother's maiden name is Looney or something. Anyway, yeah, we're from a Potiki. And
the loonies from a Potiki.
Yeah.
You can really get that mixed up. You know? We've got a few loonies and two pookies.
Right. My mum used to try and get around saying Lune. It was like, whatever.
You can't jazz up loony, though.
Nah, mate. No, it's pretty shit, isn't it? Yeah. Oh my god. Anyway, so Scotty Crowley was singing, and this guy can sing like Robert Plant, and he could sing
he was amazing, man. Led
better.
Zeppelin was bang on.
Yeah, for sure. And they didn't have a bass player, so I was like, oh shit, I really want to be in this band. And then I was like, that's an A instead of like, I was like, okay, this is me. But I remember the first two songs I learned was Jeremy by Pearl Jam and Alive by Pearl Jam, and then I was just like hooked, man. That was me.
Awesome.
And that went on.
Great. Yeah.
Mate, I had some. So Damien Tarotoa was in the band, and
beautiful pronunciation.
Yeah, and he's pretty funny, but he was pretty hard headed too. And I remember one night, mate, like we clashed a few times, and Max used to get like over us, right? Because we'd argue on stage, you know, it was like really bad. And then Damien used to like having a few drinks, and so did Tomo. And I remember one night, mate, we were pretty blitzed, and I turn around, and I'm like, and I'm playing. And I'm going, bro, and I'm trying to yell to him, and he's looking at me and going, bro, and I'm like, dude, your lead's not even in, because he stepped on his guitar. He stepped on his guitar lead, pulled his lead up, but here he is, mate, playing these chops and like into it. I'm like,
still had the feel though.
Still had the feel. And then when I was like, I had to stop playing and going, your effing lead is out, and then he seemed look sort of like. Plug it back in and then away. But yeah, then and then Blue Mother Child sort of ended, and then I went to play for Spin Cycle, and then you guys started Strip Search, and that was wicked because Dan Roebuck was in that as well, right?
He was originally it was Max. Max was our guitarist and keyboard player. He sort of started the band. Yeah. And, you know, and we obviously named the band after the Faith No More song because it was kind of like our biggest song. You know, it was awesome to play that song.
Yeah. Especially the keys.
And then, and then Max, and also Willie Coleman was our original drummer.
Was he really? Willie? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was our original drummer, but he left for that original project that he was in with the redhead chick and they're all sort of hippie-ish. Remember that?
What were they called?
And she had the boyfriend who was sort of like the Maori guy that played guitar.
Yeah, they weren't bad.
Was it like something Train, Audio Train, or something like that? Anyway, it was right up Willie's alley.
Yeah,
and
totally.
You could tell. Yeah. You know the alley I'm referring to. Yeah. And so he left, and that's when we got Devo as well, Steve.
Right.
And so once we made that sort of connection with me, Jono, Dan, and Steve, it was a pretty special thing.
It was very.
We're really on the same wavelength of what music we wanted to play. Well, basically, we were just listening to the radio station that's putting out good music at the time, and we were just grasping onto everything that sounded good and that we knew that people were going to like. And we just killed it.
I think at that time too, like there's Tauranga has always sort of had the blues bands, you know, like the Hard to Handles, the Hip Shooters, you know, the Graham Clark and Brillo and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And then there was bands like, we were in early days, Spin Cycle, that I was in for a couple of years, and they were together before I was even involved. But Strip Search sort of lifted the game a little bit, I think, as far as some of the songs you were playing, no one else was playing at the time. And you're right. Like when The Rock came to TommoTalks, it was a radio station that came, it was playing all this really new stuff that a lot of people hadn't heard. And it was awesome. And you guys were sort of turning that around, within weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember that being sort of, I was very, very envious actually. And you guys sounded good. And I used to love coming to watch because of Jono. So Jono, the vocalist, he's got a wicked voice, man. Such a good voice.
Yeah. Really good.
And so I'll sort of prog the memory here. Do you remember the old foldback and like when he couldn't hear and he'd try and get a little bit closer to hear, then it would
to it, yeah.
Then it would feed back in his head, then he'd lose his shit and kick the hell of it out of it. And
I know he had a very fiery temper. He had a little dose of narcolepsy, if I remember.
Yeah, true story.
Correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember in our breaks, he'd go and have a break and sit down and have a little power nap and then come back and be right.
Yeah.
But he definitely had a wild side to him.
Yeah, mate.
And things like
I think
it was interesting to see. Some of his reactions on stage sort of made for good viewing.
For sure, especially Crazy Jacks. It was something we used to always go down at Crazy Jacks. I've actually got a story to tell you after we stop recording about the fire is still running strong. It's a great story too. But we'll
excellent.
We'll do that off camera.
Okay, that sounds great.
Cool, man. So then you're doing the Strip Search thing, and then what sort of happened after that?
That's a good question. I think Strip Search sort of dissolved a little bit. Well, obviously Devo died. That was a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just sort of had to move on. And I sort of got into a three-piece thing. That's when I sort of met Mark and Andre, and they were sort of more into the heavier sort of side of things. We were like playing Disturbed and old school Metallica and stuff like that. And that was sort of because we'd moved on from Shooters, and Shooters was more the cool, you can play rock, but still the mainstreamy rock that everybody can dance to.
Right.
When Shooters changed to Bahama Hut, and that was our local gone.
Yep.
So Jack approached me, and he was a little bit more open-minded to what we played there. He got me in doing jam nights for a while with a guy called Paul Johnson.
No, Paul.
And through, you remember Paul? Yeah. He's here in Brisbane.
Is he?
Yeah. So yeah. He we did that for a little while, and then Jack got me to get a band together to do the Friday nights rather than just the Thursday night jam night. Do a Friday night thing and have a regular band in there. So that's where I approached Mark Wright.
Yep.
And basically it just picked up to Bogensville again because we just started playing all the shit that we really liked, which is all rock and metal, and it just sort of brought people in that like that. So now the metalers had their bar again. It was Crazy Jacks. So it was a good move on Jack's behalf because he knew all those people that went to Shooters needed a new home, and it was a pretty simple transition.
Yeah, he nailed it.
And so we ran with that for a few years too, just doing that and doing the odd show in Hamilton, like you were saying when you saw us. And we sort of flogged that horse until I sort of got over it all and decided to move interstate.
I've just had a pop back into my head, and I wanted to remember this. Do you remember when we went up to see North Shore Event Centre to see live?
Oh yeah, well, yes I do. Yeah. And Sugar Ray and Tadpole supported them.
Yeah. Well
Memory
done,
banks.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I do remember that at the time you were like, live, but tell you what, they put on a wicked show, like
they did. You're not about to mention the bass player making a muck up and carry on. Sorry, I won't interrupt you. That's not what you're going to. Okay.
It's before we got there.
I'll say my bit after you.
It's before we got there. We were cruising over my Commodore, and then you said, "Hey, let's take a diversion through Cambridge to see my uncle."
My uncle.
Yeah.
Are you sure we're allowed to say this?
Yeah, and I'll keep it rated, mate. And because there's a bit of a detour. Anyway, we go through Cambridge, we see someone, and we had this we had this big huge bud, right, like massive bud, but it was still a bit sticky and wet. So we put the dashboard of the car. I'm driving through Hamilton. I'm lost, mate. And I'm going through all that, and next thing, boo! The old coppers. Remember this?
I do remember.
The coppers pulled us over. Like, oh no! So I just jumped out of the car. Now, furthermore, if you jump out of a car over here when the police pull you up, you're probably going to be shot. Like, you just don't do that. Like, it's super different at home, right? So I get out of the car and he goes, "Do you realise that you were going 75k in a 50?" I was like, "Probably was, mate." I'm like, bloody lost. I don't know where I'm going. And he looked at me, and then you got out of the car, and you had a camera, and he's going, "What's he doing?" And you said, "I'm going to take a photo." He goes, "Why does he want to take a photo?" He goes, "Take a photo of me getting a ticket, I suppose." He goes, "Well, I'm not going to give you a ticket." Oh, okay. So I went and checked the registration of my car, which is right. There's a massive sticky button sitting on the dashboard. I was like 50 cent, 5 cent, 50 cent, 5 cent. And he didn't notice it. And then he gave us a police escort out of Hamilton.
Took us right there.
Yeah, he was like, "Follow me, boys." And so he drove us out of the
That was amazing.
Oh, that could have taken a bad turn, mate. That
was so fun.
Yeah, like if he had seen that, I would have been locked up for sure, and we wouldn't have got to see live. Anything, there's why I want to segue from that, because it just popped to me. But there's one thing at the live concert that really blew me away, and the lead vocalist, Ed, is it Kowalski?
I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Whatever, some Polish name, I think. They started playing the intro to Lightning Crashes, which obviously everyone knew, and he was like, because of this one song, we've been able to travel the world, do all these amazing things. But he said, we were a band 20 years before this song.
Before it.
And I was like, what? Because I was struggling to be in a cover band for 2 years because of all the bollocks that would go on. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of really impacted me on the whole idea of being a full-time musician and how hard it is, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like the slog. And so that was cool. And that show was really great as well. And they were amazing live. And you saw the bass player make a cock up, did you?
He totally made a cock up in Lightning Crashes in a really easy spot. And I just remember, when you're really getting into something and then that one note just distorts everything and it makes your whole just go,
right.
And I just, for the rest of, not the rest of the night, because I'm sure it was pretty much their last song anyway.
Right.
Just feeling so horrible for him.
Right.
Because, he would be beating himself up inside so much.
Yeah.
You and I both know it's not a hard song.
Yeah.
And one dud note stands out like dog's balls.
Right. I found that out the hard way when I transitioned from a 4-string to a 5-string. When you hit that open B string, doesn't sound like an open E, right?
No. No, it certainly doesn't.
So we're at about 2004, ending 2004, 2005. You and your wife, girlfriend or fiance at the time, were you engaged?
At the time. No, not even. No, we were just got together. We've been together for a couple of years. So Ange and I just decided to move and just try something different. I had contacts over here for work.
Yeah.
And I had Brad and Scott lived over here that were previously in bands. So I knew I had connection musically and a connection work-wise. Perfect. Let's just go and have a go at it.
Yep. And how long were you planning to go for?
You never really plan. You just sort of think, we never had a plan to return. Right. It was just more of a let's go and see how things go. Mm. And, we ended up coming over here, having a family and being here 15 years.
Awesome.
And all the accolades that you mentioned at the start is what resulted in that.
Yeah. And when you first got there, like I first moved to London, I tried to network musically, and London's a tough beast, man, because there's literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of people trying to do the same shit. It's not clicky, but it is. It's hard to explain. But it's hard to even get into the semi-considered sort of, okay, you guys aren't too bad sort of circuit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it's really different. What was the Gold Coast like, and how long till you sort of started finding some, a gig that was working for you pretty well, or a group of guys that was working pretty well for you?
When I first got here, I sort of didn't really see too many bands. I didn't go out a lot, and but when I did, the bands that I saw were of good quality. Like there was a band knocking around. This is I'm just going off cover bands because original bands was a different. I never really came over here for the original band thing.
Right.
It was more just to come and see covers bands, and I knew I wanted to get back into that scene because I loved it. And there was a band called The Accidents that are still going around today, and they set the bar very high.
Right.
Playing all sorts, and they're just the guys that you have at corporate events and stuff like that. They're just very professional. A guy called Scott Watman is the brainchild of it, and he's done very well for himself, makes his living out of it.
Wow.
And so from that, I sort of tried to get my friends Brad and Scott, who were twins, guitar and drums, to start a covers band as well. And we started rehearsing together, and we've got some really cool songs together, all stuff that we really liked. It was all stuff like, at the time that was big was Creed, and Faith No More was a big one for us, and stuff like that. We wanted to play songs that we knew, like the Accidents had that thing covered. We wanted to play the songs that were a little bit more, not the big hits,
right?
Sort of thing, but still we knew everyone would know them and like them. And I think we sort of succeeded there, but we never really got off the ground because we didn't have a person in the band that was really like a manager that would go and get the gigs.
Right.
That's kind of an important person to have in the band, is somebody that does the organization on that sort of things. We didn't really have the gift of the gab to sort of sell ourselves.
Right.
We had the talent. All the talent was there. It's just we never really had anybody like that. And I struggled for years sort of trying to be a part of something like that because, we never really had any. I never really took the bull by the horns in that department either, which I should have. But, that's, years go past, and that's when Follow the Fox came along. And Ben White, our guitarist, is sort of, he is the guy that does all that.
Right.
And we can attribute most of our success, if you call it success, to that. Having somebody in the band to take that bull by the horns, I think is really important.
Yeah, you need someone like one contacting venues is one thing, but it's the consistently following up and and making those phone calls and all that, and circling back after a gig to make sure that everyone was happy and all that sort of thing, and just trying to be a little bit different and more professional than the next. And it's tough when no one sort of takes
puts
it on board, So, and because you were, from memory, just when watching on social media, you guys were playing quite a lot, eh?
Yeah, we played at like 80 shows one year, which some weekends it was 3-day weekends.
Yep.
And it was not a lot of time off when you're working during the week and then also playing.
Yep.
And we got to travel around a fair bit too. So we really had a blast. We were a very busy covers band, and that's a testament to Ben and his hard work.
Yeah,
and everybody else's, of course.
And you guys are still playing together?
Yeah, we are, but things have taken a real toll because of COVID, and it has done all around the world. It's it's definitely taken. Yeah, it's been good for us actually because it's kind of like a big resting period, but 5 months is a long resting period. We were pretty itchy to get back into it.
Yeah, I played our first gig last Saturday, and that was the first one since March. Because for here, it's our summer, right? North America right now. So we have gigs booked up the wazoo, and we're a fairly new band as well. But our drummer and guitarist, both guitarists, have got loads of contacts. So we had a lot of corporate stuff booked in that. Our drummer's wicked. He plays with a click, so we can use sequencing and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and,
awesome.
Makes it bigger. And then this happened. So the gig we just did was it was actually one of my friend's 60th. I organised a surprise birthday, and we did it. And it was weird because it was outside, and even we on stage were socially distanced and all that sort of thing. It was just odd, man.
I know.
But, it's just good to the people that were there just music again. Like it's something we need, man. Do you know what I mean? Like seeing live music.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's like therapeutic, just about.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, man, for sure. It's at first when we maybe the first month, maybe the first 2 months, I was sort of enjoying the break, being home with the family. It was really nice. But then it gets to a point, and you realise just how addicted to it you are.
Yeah.
And then you feel lost without it. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad. Yeah, we did the same. We played a couple of private parties, and they were really good because people were actually able to dance and stuff.
Yeah.
But here, you're not even allowed to dance. So we played a show. It's like Footloose.
Oh,
Kevin Bacon comes to town. No dancing. Yeah, so we played a show the other weekend, and everybody has to sit in their seats. Security are coming around people with their drinks, telling them to sit down.
Oh,
and it was a real buzzkill. And you know how I combated that?
How?
I just got really drunk, Tomo. So not much has changed in that department.
Well, and also
I wrote myself off.
We've been trying to.
I don't want to.
We've been trying to arrange this bloody conversation for a couple of weeks, but I only had Sundays available, and you're like, "Nah, I'll be too hungover." I was like, "All right, you can take the Kiwi out of New Zealand, but you can't take."
Yeah. This is true. Yeah.
So let's get on to the Australian Chili Pepper show. Now, one thing, like, I mean, when I was back home, and I don't know too much about Aussie because I've never lived there, tribute bands weren't a thing. But when I first noticed when I moved to North America, it's huge. It is huge.
Yeah, right.
The Bon Jovi tribute band that comes here, they will sell 5,000 to 8,000 tickets. Like, it's crazy, man. And people just eat that up. I mean, is that sort of the transition of what's going on in Australia as well? What's happening?
Well, it's not to that magnitude. That's huge.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I'm only going from the tribute bands I'm in because that's all I know.
Yeah.
We've gotten 400 or 500 people to a show for a Chili's, which was really good for us.
Yeah.
And we've travelled and played at festivals, which has been really good. To been flowing out stuff like that. But tribute bands. There's a lot of them.
Right.
I think it's there's still not a massive amount of people going out to see bands anymore. They make it more and more expensive to buy alcohol these days in pubs, so that just deters a lot of people.
Yeah.
But if you really love a good band like the Chili's, and the band does it pretty adequately, then it gets people there. So I think. The tribute shows that I played in, because I also played in a Rage Against the Machine tribute band.
Right.
And you just get the energy from the crowd. That's the best part of it for me, is the people have gone to see those particular songs that they love.
Right.
And they get to see them performed well. And you lose yourself and forget that you're actually watching people that are just playing the same songs. You can actually feel the energy. And we've had people come up to us and say, "Man, that was better than when I saw the Chili's at such and such," or that hit me, because you're actually really wanting to make it perfect.
Yeah,
it's not loose like the original bands are. Sometimes you can go and see an original band and go, "Wow, they had a pretty off night, didn't they, man?" I've seen the Chili's 3 times, and I maybe liked them once.
Yeah,
the first time I saw them at Big Day Out, they were incredible. But being in New Zealand, we always get them on the arse end of their tour, and they're always pretty tired. And when I saw them, whoever they were with, I think they might have had Incubus with them or something or other. Incubus wiped the floor with them. They were just had no energy, and it was really disappointing.
I saw them when the Blood Sugar Sex Magic tour, when that happened. That was just with Josh Frusciante. He left, and they had to postpone it. And then they got the Jane's Addiction guitarist in.
Dave
Navarro, yeah, and that was incredible. But then I saw them in London in the UK, and I was really disappointed. And then I was just yarning to a few people, and they go, "Wow, Anthony Kiedis, he's sober now, man." Like, and they reckon once he got off the gear,
now he has no more talent.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I've heard that a few times, but it's hit and miss, because if you look at these tour schedules of some of these big bands,
I was just going to say that too.
Ridiculous, mate.
Yeah,
like they will play 20 nights in a row, then have one night off, right?
Yeah.
Then they'll fly to a different time zone, and since like one thing a lot of people in New Zealand and even Australia for that matter, they don't sort of appreciate how long it takes to get anywhere. Like, check this out. Right. So I'm from Mount Maunganui. If the surf's flat, I jump in the car and I drive to the west coast in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Now, if I jump in the car and drive to the east coast where I'm from right now, that will take me about 20, 25 hours. Dude, if I get in the car and drive to the west coast, it'll take me 6 days driving. Do you know what I mean? So flying. A lot of people. I had a conversation with a drummer originally from home called Dylan Elise. He's based in LA. He's a current drummer for Blood, Sweat and Tears. And mate, I watch his. I follow him on Instagram. Before, obviously, pre-COVID, he's just traveling all the time. He's just on a plane all the time, you know. And like they'll jump on a plane. There was one day he said there was a 36-hour period. 21 hours of that he was traveling, and it was basically they had to go to Europe to do a show, then get back to Massachusetts to do a show, and then they had to get to New York to do a show, all in that period. So he says that, you know, we don't get paid to play music. That's the fun part. He's like, we get paid to travel. You know?
To travel. Yeah, for sure. Yep, totally understand that.
Cool, man. So the Chili Peppers, I've seen quite a lot of video of it, and mate, your vocalist actually looks like Anthony Kiedis a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he plays the part really well, and he's actually a really talented guy, Greg. He's one of those guys that can sort of slip into anything. He does a Stone Temple Pilots tribute band too, and he does Scotty Whelan really well.
Is that right?
And so and he's in a covers band with the two of them, Michael and him, called Gin and Wall, and they cover a lot of really cool acoustic songs. And he just slips vocally into that zone really, really well. So he's a good guy to jam with. He makes it sound legit.
Now, Second Circle, I want to get back here. As I said at the start of the episode, Lust, wicked recording. It's the video just suits it as well. Gold Coast boys, you know, the whole surf thing. It's just like, did you come up with the concept of that video, or was that something
You know
else?
what? We basically gave all that control to Luke Sorensen, who was the guy that did the video. You know, we actually just went to where we practice just for a photo shoot, and he just pitched it to us and sort of said, "Look, man, how about we just go back into your jam room? You've got all your gear there. How about we just set it up? We just play Lust about a dozen times, and you guys just mosh to it and run through it, and I'll just take some footage, and I'll get back to you with what, you know, with a bit of a thing sort of thing." So really, we didn't have any creative control over it whatsoever. It was just the song, and you know, we gave them the good version of the recorded version of it, and it was totally off the cuff, man. We just spent maybe an hour getting photos done, you know, taking photos of ourselves and whatnot, just to make a bit of promotion for ourselves. And then he pitched it to us and said, "How about we just do a video clip?" And he told us what it was going to cost, and it didn't cost a lot. I mean, it's obviously not a massive budget video, as you could tell, but I think it just captured where we were at the time, you know.
Brilliant, mate.
And it was pretty exciting for us because it was my first video clip, and you know, so I was really keen to do it, and that's the result. So we're real happy with it, and kudos to Luke Sorensen. He did a really good job of it, and I've seen some of his other stuff too, and he's just got an eye for it, just a knack. So
we've been talking about it enough. So what we're going to do now is Snowy's given us the video to include in the episode. So stand by. This is Second Circle and Lust.
Mind like an ocean.
And there we go. There was a second circle with Lust. As I said at the start there's some really fat-sounding riffs, and, mate, I just really love it. So, again, congrats. I know you're proud of it, and, it's a really good, really, really good single there. So
cheers for that.
What is the plans for Second Circle? I mean, obviously, again, with COVID, it's a little bit tough. Do you have plans already set? Do you know what's happening next? What's going on with you guys?
Well, it's really funny that you mentioned that, but since the whole COVID situation, I've had some time to reflect, and it's as hard as this is for me to say, the family and I are going to be moving back to New Zealand.
Oh, is that right, mate?
Bang, gotcha. No, it's not a joke. I'm not lying. No, it's true.
Scoop, mate. Scoop.
You weren't expecting that. Yeah, you weren't expecting that.
Oh, is that right? Holy.
Yeah.
When's this happening?
So it's just, well, it's pretty much come about since COVID.
Right.
Pretty much, like, and all the, once all the band stuff sort of dropped away, and then you sort of sit back and think, well, where's everything going to go from now on, even if it does pick back up? And my wife, all her family and sisters are back home, and my mum and my brothers are growing up. 15 years here, man, and we've been back and forward, but every time you see them, he's an inch taller, and we're just missing out on so much. And our kids, we've got 2 daughters. Yeah, they haven't got that relationship with them, right? And I think we've just sort of come to the conclusion that it's time to rectify that.
Yeah.
That's so cool, and I miss home, man. Like, and I know you miss home.
Yeah.
New Zealand is an awesome place, man.
I don't tell too many people about it anymore. I want to keep it like the hidden little gem, especially now, because over here, you like, the news is all what's happening in the US right now, and the whole Trump thing, and the whole, like, it's a crazy mess with COVID over here at the moment. And so you don't get too much New Zealand news, of course. But when you do, people are like, hey, why don't you go home? Like, there's no COVID and stuff like that. And it's like, well, there's things to be done over here first. But so have you got a date?
Well, see, when I moved here, I had a goal, and it was to get in bands. It was to do a tribute band. I always wanted to do a tribute band, and I've done 3 of them. And an originals band. We've made that video. We've done some really good recordings. I feel like I've ticked a lot of boxes. Yeah. And now I think moving back to New Zealand, I sort of get to start the adventure again. I've got a lot of contacts back there musically, and I do work-wise as well. Yep. And I think because we have family there, the wife and kids are going to be a lot more happier because we're going to be around family. Yep. The network. And when you work as often as I did in the weekends and not spend that time with them, it's time I can't really get back. Of course. So I think by moving back to New Zealand, we're going to have that again, and it's going to be good. Cool. I won't jump straight back into music, but I'll always do something musically, whether it's for myself or I start back in bands. Yeah. But it's kind of exciting to know that I'm going to start the adventure again, And
is this like happening in months or next year, or when's your
plan? No, it is in months. Originally, we're going to go in September. Right. So not too far away at all. But we booked our tickets, and Virgin cancelled our tickets. Oh, no. And which was really scary because we presumed that was COVID orientated as well. But we rebooked tickets for late October. Okay. So October 26th is our departure date. So, all the bands that I'm in know about it, and things have been pretty emotional this last couple of weeks. Yeah, I'm sure. I hope they know about it, because they're going to know about it pretty fucking soon. Right? Don't tune into this. Yeah. Oh, man, that's awesome. No one's watching TommoTalks. And are you heading back to, where are we heading back to at home? Yeah, we're going to go back to the Bay, man. Ah, sweet. Actually, to start with, it'll be Te Puke. Oh, of course. Of course. It's got to be. Because everybody loves Te Puke. Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's where my parents still live. Mum and dad still live in Te Puke, so we're going to go back there first, just to get a dot down, and then we'll look at the Papamoa Mount region. Yep. And who knows, we might even slip back into Tauranga. Yep. But at least we'll be around a lot of people that we know, which is going to make the conversion relatively simple, I think. Yeah. Wicked. Now, there's something I asked you a little bit a while ago. Obviously, this move is pretty
pretty a big sort of thing in the next few months. Well, few months. But what are your plans? Musically, so the next 5 years. Have you thought about that? Do you want to get back into? Snowy used to be a bass tutor back in our 20s, and you were pretty bloody good at it too. Have you thought about going back to that sort of thing, or what are your plans for the next sort of 5 years with music?
Well, there's so many little ideas and stuff that live inside you as a muso. I'd really like to be able to get all of those ideas out. So to make my own sort of album with just, pieces of your soul would be nice to have something to pass on to your kids, even if you don't, it doesn't have to be for anybody else, just for me personally and for my kids, I'm not a well-rounded musician. I'm not a very great guitarist, but, I go right on the drums and can play bass and sing a bit. So I'd like to make something and bring all this stuff that's in here out.
Right.
That would be good. And there are friends like Mark Wright back home that I'd like to reunite with. Because I know he still has that same, and Andre still have the same passion that we did 15 years ago. That'll never die in us.
Yeah.
So to perform with those guys again, I think will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And they've only gone as well.
just I think to pass on what I know to my kids is something that I'm a bit ambitious with too, because Amber, my daughter's a really good singer.
I've seen that.
And
you posted a few videos. It'll be a year or two ago now, though, right? But that's awesome.
She's definitely got the gift, and I'd like to nurture that. And anyone else like my wife or Eva, if they want to do something on instruments too, just to be able to pass that on, I think is something that I'm really interested in doing.
Awesome.
It'd be nice to perform with Amber, like when she gets of age, and and just take her around the pubs and make me money. Yeah.
Does she play golf?
I don't even play golf.
Right.
She won't be getting lessons off me.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Cool, man. Well, listen, I wish you all the best for the move home. That's going to be a big step as well, and you'll be sort of, I think that'll be a little bit, saying goodbye to your home of 15 years is going to be a little bit tough too. You would have made some really good friendships, etc.
Well, as you know, being in bands, you really do form relationships that stick with you for life. Like, look at us, I haven't really talked to you in like 17, 18 years, and just being here is just like we chatted yesterday.
Exactly.
That's just what music does, man. It really does bring us together.
Yeah.
So the relationships that I'll be leaving definitely is going to hurt, but I'm only across the ditch, mate.
Yeah, exactly. 3 hours, and then and like you said, like, mate, there's the likes of Mark, there's Andre, there's Jono, there's Max, there's Bartman. Do you know what I mean? There's a plethora of people.
Yeah. To say I'm not a little bit excited to see those guys is an understatement. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I keep in contact with Max regularly.
Awesome.
I like when he was living here in the US, I used to go see him down in Miami and all that sort of stuff and catch up.
That's
and
great.
Have some good laughs about the old times, mate.
So he's actually back. He's actually back in Tauranga now, is he, Max?
No, he's still in Podaki, but
Podaki. Cool.
he shoots down to the Ronga quite a bit. He's in a band at the moment with Steve Kopoi, Shane Davies. All those boys, but I think they're having trouble finding a decent drummer or something. So another offline conversation.
Real hard to find good drummers in New Zealand.
Do you know what, mate? Like it's crazy. Like here, it is so difficult.
Is it?
Yeah, man. Like, because back home, it's drummers are plenty, right? Like,
they're everywhere.
Yeah, and
everywhere.
they're good as well.
Yeah.
The drummer I'm playing with now, his name's Alan Knight. He is he's a professional musician. So he plays, talking about tribute bands. He's actually filling in for a friend of his for a Queen tribute act.
Wow.
But when Bohemian Rhapsody came out, it just their stuff blew up. They're booked up for the next 2.5 years, mate. So
wow.
And they were like booked going on cruise ships. So he was going away for 4 weeks or 6 weeks at a time, playing 3 nights a week on the cruise ship. Wicked coin.
I would have really liked to have done something like that.
Yeah. You don't know if you look like John Deacon though, mate. Right? You'd have to get a bit of an aff going on. Yeah. I don't think John Deacon played a Warwick 5-string either. It's a crazy little thing called love.
Sure, he wrote that song on that, didn't he?
Exactly. Mate, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you, Snowy, mate.
It has, Tomo. Awesome, man.
I've missed your humour. I wish you all the best for your trip home, you and the girls. Thanks for being part of TommoTalks. And let's not try and leave it another 15 or 17 years or whatever it is till the next beer. And let's see if we can get up to some no good again.
Yeah, well said, man. It's been my pleasure. It really has been awesome, man. So, yeah, thanks for having me on. Cheers.
All right, mate. All right. Take it easy, bro.